They buried a man they thought was gone forever, but death was only the beginning. The rain fell hard that morning in Lagos, each drop like a secret, washing over the golden coffin of Chief Adewale Johnson, the billionaire everyone envied. His wife wept louder than the thunder, and his only son stood beside her, cold, expressionless. But what they didn't know was that the man they were mourning was watching, alive, hidden behind the shadows of his own funeral. His heart pounded, not from grief, but from betrayal. Tonight, he would learn who truly loved him and who only loved his money.
Rain poured as the world's cameras flashed around the golden casket. Billionaire Adewale Johnson, the empire builder, the philanthropist, was dead. His wife, Isabel, wore black silk and tears that looked perfect for headlines. Their son, Michael, sobbed before the crowd, but his eyes flickered toward the inheritance lawyer. Few knew that in the shadows of a distant oak tree, a man stood under a hat, breathing, alive, and watching his own burial. Under the whispering rain, Adewale's heart beat with disbelief. The people crying for him were actors in a play he had written. Let us see, he thought bitterly, who mourns the man and who mourns the money. It began months earlier. Adewale, once full of joy, had grown sick of the glittering lies in his home. His wife's laughter had turned cold. His son's voice now spoke only of stocks, cars, and profit. Love dies slowly when fed with greed, he told his lawyer, Mr. Dube, one quiet night. Together, they planned a deception few men could risk, a fake death staged in a helicopter crash over the Atlantic. You lose everything, Dube warned. Adewale smiled sadly. No, I'll finally know what's real. He vanished into secrecy, trading silk suits for dusty clothes and silence. Within days of his death, the vultures circled. Isabel held a grand memorial at the mansion. Laughter filled the air as guests toasted to his legacy. Michael, barely 28, demanded control of the company. Father would want me to lead, he told the board. Forgetting the wisdom his father once shared, power without discipline ruins men. Adewale watched from afar through a window of the gardener's quarters. The family that once prayed together now feasted on his absence. He gripped his shovel and whispered, I built this kingdom with love. They are destroying it with greed. Disguised as an old gardener, Adewale trimmed roses he once gifted to Isabel. None recognized him. Time, dust, and grief had reshaped his face. Through whispers and glances, he watched how easily love fades when wealth remains. Isabel now hosted dinners with strange guests, men in suits, women with fake smiles. One evening, she said, My husband was rich, but too sentimental. Now I'm free. Those words stabbed deeper than any betrayal. Adewale felt his knees weaken. Beneath the stars, he murmured, Freedom bought with deceit is a curse that will soon collect its debt. Michael moved into his father's private office. He discovered hidden files, bank access codes, and uncashed shares. The taste of power thrilled him. I'll make father proud, he said. But each new luxury hollowed him further. Cars, parties, models, they replaced purpose with pleasure. Meanwhile, the orphanage Adewale built was left unpaid. The children he once fed were turned away by guards. Watching from afar, Adewale's heart cracked. His empire was no longer a symbol of impact. It was now a monument to greed. A man's legacy, he whispered, dies not when he stops breathing, but when his values do. Mr. Dube arrived at the mansion under the pretense of business. He found Isabel draped in jewels and Michael counting shares. It's time, Dube said, to release the trust fund. Isabel's eyes gleamed. Finally. That night, Dube met secretly with Adewale in a dark alley. Sir, it's worse than we thought. They plan to sell your hospitals and the orphanage lands. Adewale's grip tightened. The same lands where my father is buried, he asked. Dube nodded silently. A storm rumbled above them. Then I'll rise from the grave, not to reclaim wealth, but to reclaim truth. Days later, invitations went out. Auction of the late Adewale Johnson estate. The mansion glittered with guests ready to buy memories. Isabel stood at the podium, elegant and hollow. As the bidding began, lightning flashed, and a voice thundered from the doorway. Who dares sell a man's soul before it's cold? Gasps rippled. Cameras froze. Adewale Johnson stepped in, drenched in rain. Alive! Isabel screamed. Michael turned pale. You are supposed to be dead. Adewale's eyes burned. I was, Michael. To you I was dead long before the crash. The room fell silent as Adewale walked forward. I left to see what love remains without money, he said softly. Isabel spat. You deceived us first. You lied. Adewale's voice broke. I lied to test truth. You lived lies to bury it. Michael trembled. Father, I thought you'd want me to continue your legacy. Adewale stared at him. Legacy? You sold our integrity for applause. The storm outside matched the chaos within. Chandeliers flickered, and every guest felt the weight of one truth. Love built on wealth collapses when wealth disappears. When police arrived to calm the chaos, Adewale demanded every document, every account. The truth was damning. Millions siphoned to foreign banks, foundations emptied, workers unpaid. Isabel wept, not from guilt but fear. You ruined us, she shouted. Adewale replied, no, greed did. As dawn approached, he dismissed the crowd and faced his family. I leave nothing for those who traded love for luxury. You buried me once, now I bury my fortune. His words echoed through marble halls like a final prayer. The mansion stood quiet the next day. Servants left. The gates closed. Isabel wandered through empty rooms filled with dust and memories. We had everything, she whispered, but we wanted more. Michael, now broke, sat beside her, his head low. Adewale, from a distance, watched the home he built fade into silence. Wealth can buy space, he murmured, but never peace. He left the city quietly, carrying only his one Bible and a promise to rebuild life with meaning, not marble. In a small fishing town miles away, Adewale began again. He walked with his hands, teaching boys how to build boats, telling stories of honesty and hope. People knew him only as Old Mr. Johnson. Each sunrise healed him. Each child's smile reminded him that legacy is not measured in currency, but in kindness. At night, he'd look at the stars and whisper, they took everything, yet I have peace. And somehow that peace felt richer than all the gold he had lost. Years later, Michael tracked him down. Ragged, ashamed and weeping, he fell at his father's feet. Father, I lost it all. The money, the house, even friends. I just want forgiveness. Adewale looked at him, older, wiser, gentler. He said, now you are richer than you've ever been, because only a broken heart can learn to love. They embraced under a quiet dawn. I'll start again, Michael promised. Not as your heir, but as your student. News reached them that Isabel had fallen ill.
Alone in a small apartment, she refused help. He was right. She whispered to her reflection, I chased gold and lost a soul. She died holding Adewale's old photograph, the only thing she hadn't sold. When Adewale heard, he closed his eyes. May she find peace where love needs no price. Then he donated her remaining wealth to charity, the final redemption of a family once broken by greed. Years passed. The orphanage was rebuilt, grander than before. On its gates was engraved, Love is the only wealth death cannot take. Adewale and Michael worked side by side, feeding hundreds and teaching orphans that purpose is the highest profit. One day, a young girl asked, "Sir, were you really a billionaire?" Adewale smiled. "Once, but now I'm a man who owns peace, and that's worth more." The crowd clapped softly, unaware they were looking at a man who once owned the world, but had finally found his soul. Years later, Adewale sat beneath an old tree, the same tree where he once watched his fake funeral. Birds sang, his heart was still. Life, he whispered, isn't measured by how many cry at your death, but by how many live better because you lived. When he passed peacefully that evening, the sky glowed gold. No cameras, no coffins, just laughter of children, his true heirs. On his grave was written, "He died twice, but lived truly once." And for generations, his story reminded the world, love without truth is just a lie that shines.
What would you have done if you were Adewale Johnson? Comment your answer below. Subscribe to African Folktales by Sammie for more weekly life experience and moral lesson stories.